My name is Emma, I'm 26 years old, and I live in a small apartment in Manhattan, New York. I'm not someone who cries easily, life in the city kind of trains that out of you. But the day I discovered my mother's wedding dress was missing, I broke down like a little girl. It wasn't just a dress. It was the dress. Vintage silk with delicate lace sleeves, hand-stitched pearls, and a cathedral train that shimmered under the light. It had been passed down from my grandmother to my mom, and after Mom passed away from cancer 3 years ago, it became one of the last tangible pieces I had of her. She always said, "You'll wear this on your big day, Emma. It'll be our little tradition." After I got engaged to Caleb, I had the dress professionally restored and kept it safe in a garment bag inside my closet, tucked in the corner behind all my coats. I checked on it every few weeks, like it was some fragile treasure. Because to me, it was. One morning, about 6 weeks before my wedding, I decided to try it on again. I was home alone, humming to myself, heart fluttering with excitement. But when I opened the closet and reached for the garment bag, it wasn't there. At first, I thought maybe I moved it. I tore the whole apartment apart. Checked under the bed, in storage bins, behind the couch, nothing. My heart started pounding. My throat tightened. I called my fiancé, Caleb, hoping he might have moved it for some romantic surprise. He hadn't. He sounded concerned but confused. Then it hit me. Riley. My 24-year-old sister, Riley, had stayed with me for a week last month after breaking up with her boyfriend. She'd been snooping around a lot, asking questions about wedding plans, making little comments like, "Wow, that dress is so old school," or "Are you really going to wear that?" I didn't think much of it then. But now, the timeline clicked. My stomach dropped. I called her immediately. "Riley," I snapped as soon as she picked up. "Where's my dress?" She didn't even pretend to be confused. "Oh, that dress," she said, laughing. "Emma, seriously. It looked like something out of a haunted house. You should be thanking me." I was stunned. "You sold it." "Relax. I got a great price for it on this vintage bridal site. And you're better off without it. Honestly, I did you a favor." I couldn't speak. My vision blurred with tears. But what broke me wasn't just that she'd sold the dress. It was that she laughed while doing it. I don't remember much of what I said after that. I think I just stood there in my living room, frozen, clutching the phone like it was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. Riley's voice on the other end was chipper, like she'd done something clever. Like this was all one big joke. "You're seriously overreacting," she said. "It was just sitting in your closet collecting dust. Besides, you can afford a new one. Just get something more, flattering." I hung up. Not slammed, just quietly ended the call. Because if I didn't, I would have said something I'd never take back. I dropped onto my couch, numb. Tears welled up and spilled over. My fingers curled into fists. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a theft. A violation. And for what? A few $100 and a sick thrill? That evening, I drove to Dad's house in Queens. I needed comfort, clarity, something. I told him everything. He was quiet for a long time. "She sold your mother's dress?" He finally said, his voice cracking. And laughed. I nodded. He stood up, walked into the kitchen, and came back with an old photo album. Inside was a picture of my mom on her wedding day, smiling, radiant, glowing in that exact dress. The same one Riley had sold like it was junk. "She wouldn't have done this if your mother were alive," he said softly. And that was it. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Because Riley didn't just sell a piece of fabric. She sold a piece of our family's history. And when I told her how much it hurt me, she laughed like I was being dramatic. Like I was weak. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I didn't block her number. Instead, I sent her a text. "Thanks for letting me know. Guess I'll have to find something new." She replied with a thumbs up emoji. That night, I stared at the ceiling and vowed that I would never let Riley get away with this. She had a wedding coming up in 6 months. She wanted the spotlight, the applause, the perfect day. Well, I was going to give her a day she'd never forget. The hardest part wasn't losing the dress. It was acting like I was over it. For the next few weeks, I stayed quiet. I didn't bring it up with Riley again, and I didn't tell anyone else in the family what she'd done. I let her think she'd won. That I was too soft, too sentimental, too Emma to do anything about it. Let her laugh. Let her post her Pinterest boards and gloat on Instagram about how wedding planning is exhausting, but so worth it. Every smiling selfie was a reminder of how little she respected me and how confident she was that I'd just roll over. But what Riley didn't know was that I wasn't planning to fight back in the heat of the moment. I wasn't going to scream or cause a family fight or write a melodramatic post online. No, I was going to wait. Watch. Prepare. I began by apologizing, fake, of course. I texted her a week later and said, "I've been thinking, you were probably right. It was just a dress. I'll move on. I don't want this to ruin our relationship." She ate it up like cake. She even called me mature. After that, we slowly started seeing each other again. Coffee catch-ups. Shopping trips. I even offered to help her with some wedding tasks, tracking RSVPs, finding a hairstylist, helping with decorations. The more I gave, the more she took. And the more she took, the more she let her guard down. But behind every smile, every "I'm so happy for you," I was collecting ammunition. I found out her wedding dress was being custom made by a boutique in Soho, gorgeous, delicate, and very expensive. I made a point to go with her for one fitting, pretending to admire the embroidery while noting how the zipper worked and how the fabric responded to heat. I also started talking to her college friends. Harmless things at first, catching up, laughing about old stories. But in those chats, one particular incident came up again and again, Riley's little accident at a frat party senior year. A scandal that had almost gotten her expelled. It had never gone public. But I had names. And I had receipts. I wasn't going to destroy her life. I just wanted to shake it. Make her feel what I felt, helpless, embarrassed, exposed. So while she was planning her perfect day, I was planning mine too. Only mine had a dress swap, a gossip site, and one very public meltdown. My revenge wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be cold. Once the decision was made, everything became strategy. Every smile I gave Riley was rehearsed. Every "I'm so happy for you" was a mask. I wasn't happy. I was focused. I started with the dress. Riley's gown was being designed by a boutique in Soho called Celeste Bridal. She bragged about how it was a one-of-a-kind design, imported lace, ivory tulle layers, hand-beaded bodice. It cost over $6,000, and she treated it like a holy relic. She'd go for fittings once a month, post cryptic selfies from the studio, and hide the dress from even her fiancé, like it was a sacred object. She trusted me enough to invite me to one of her fittings in April. Big mistake. I watched everything, how the assistants zipped her in, how they secured the bodice, how tight the seams were. And most importantly, how delicate the stitching was under the weight of the beads. A week later, I reached out to a friend of mine from college, Layla, who worked in costume design for Broadway shows. She owed me a favor. "I need a replica," I told her. Same silhouette, same bodice, but stitched to come apart subtly during movement. She didn't ask questions. Just said, "What kind of timeline?" For months, I replied. It was a challenge. But Layla was an artist. She got to work, using reference photos I quietly took at the fitting and sketched outlines based on Riley's real gown. Meanwhile, I returned to the other weapon in my arsenal, the incident. During college, Riley had been involved in a drunken party stunt that had ended with a very public arrest for indecent exposure. She'd managed to keep it quiet by threatening legal action on anyone who posted the video that night. It was wiped from most platforms. But people remembered. One of those people was Josh, Riley's ex-boyfriend from her junior year, and the guy she cheated on. He still had the video. It was grainy, but the footage was unmistakably her. Standing on a beer keg in a barely there dress, yelling slurs at campus security before flashing the crowd. I offered him $500 to license it. He gave it to me for free. "I've been waiting years for someone to ask," he said, smiling. Then I contacted a low-tier gossip site that specialized in bridal scandals, the kind of place where bored brides-to-be went for drama and dirt. I used a burner email and sent the clip in labeled, "Bridezilla's dirty secret. This Ivy League sweetheart has a wild side." They scheduled it to go live the morning of Riley's wedding. I timed the release for 11:45 a.m., right as the ceremony was set to begin. But the final piece? The dress swap. I coordinated with Layla to deliver the replica to the bridal suite the night before the wedding, complete with boutique packaging. Since I was helping with prep, I had full access. I made the switch just before Riley arrived, placing her real dress safely in my car trunk and hanging the altered version in its place. She didn't notice a thing. Everything was set. Now all I had to do was wait. The night before Riley's wedding was a flurry of fake smiles, champagne toasts, and last-minute drama. The bridal suite at the plaza was luxurious, high ceilings, gold trim, velvet chairs, everything Riley had ever dreamed of. She fluttered around like a queen, buzzing with nerves and excitement. She even gave me a hug and whispered, "I'm really glad we made up." I hugged her back. And I meant it. Just not in the way she thought. The replica dress had been delivered earlier that day, sealed in a Celeste bridal garment bag, identical in every detail, hanger, tag, even the perfume they sprayed inside. It was masterfully done. Inside, though, was Layla's creation, a flawless copy stitched together with thread designed to slowly loosen with heat and friction. It would hold up for about 10 to 15 minutes of movement before unraveling, starting at the waist, then pulling at the sleeves. From afar, it would look like a slow wardrobe malfunction. Up close, a full unraveling. That morning, I arrived early under the guise of being the responsible maid of honor. I helped Riley with her makeup, brought her coffee, fluffed pillows, and made sure the videographer got all her getting ready footage. All the while, I kept an eye on the clock. At exactly 11:42 a.m., Riley stepped into the replica dress. "I still can't believe I'm getting married," she whispered, staring at herself in the mirror. I just smiled. "You look unforgettable." She did. As the limo arrived to take us to the chapel, I quickly excused myself, ducked into the restroom, and pulled out my phone. The gossip site's post was scheduled and now live. Exclusive, Ivy League bride's wild past, caught on camera. It was already gaining traction. I sent the link to 2 group chats Riley's bridesmaids were in. Anonymously, of course. At 11:57 a.m., we arrived at the venue. A grand, glass-roofed chapel in Central Park, filled with guests, flowers, and anticipation. Riley walked down the aisle with a smug little smile, basking in the attention, the music, the love. 10 steps in, the first stitch snapped. Right at the waist. She stopped. I saw her blink, confused, then take another step. More popping sounds. Her sleeves began to droop. The bodice sagged slightly. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Her maid of honor turned pale. I stood at the back, calmly filming it all from my seat. Then the buzzing started. Phones lit up. Notifications pinged. Someone gasped, "Is this real?" and held up their screen. Riley's face, drunk, flashing, screaming at campus cops, was playing on a loop. She reached the altar and froze. Her groom looked stunned. Her father looked furious. Her dress was now halfway undone, the inner lining visible, one sleeve slipping entirely off her shoulder. The whispers turned into full-blown laughter. Riley looked around, confused and panicked. Then she saw the phones. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. And she did what no bride ever wants to do on her wedding day. She ran. The doors slammed behind her as she bolted out of the chapel, her half-destroyed gown fluttering behind like torn sails. Guests stood in stunned silence for a moment, unsure whether to chase her or pretend like none of it happened. Then the phones came out in full force. The gossip site's video had exploded. By the time Riley reached the bridal suite upstairs, it had already racked up over 20,000 views. Guests were whispering, gasping, pointing. I overheard someone say, "Is this really her?" Another murmured, "Oh my God, this is going viral." Her groom, Jason, looked pale and embarrassed. His groomsmen clustered around him, clearly unsure what to do. One of them leaned in and said something quietly. Jason's jaw clenched, and he stormed out the side door without saying a word. Meanwhile, the officiant tried to salvage the ceremony. If everyone could please remain seated, we're just experiencing a small wardrobe issue, he stammered. But no one sat down. The wedding was over. People were already filing out, some giggling, some in awkward silence, others texting furiously. I stood near the back, watching the chaos unfold. A few people glanced at me, confused by how calm I looked. After all, wasn't I the bride's sister? A bridesmaid came rushing up to me. Emma, you need to help. Riley's freaking out upstairs. I nodded, pretending to be concerned. I'll go check on her. I took my time walking up to the suite. When I opened the door, I found Riley curled on the floor, sobbing, her makeup streaked, her half-ripped dress bundled around her like a deflated balloon. She looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. Did you do this? She choked out. I tilted my head, feigning confusion. Do what? Her lips trembled. The dress, the video, everyone's laughing at me. I knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. You know, I said softly, I know what it feels like. To have something precious taken from you, and then be laughed at when you say it hurts. She flinched. I never meant, she started. But you did. And you never said sorry. We sat in silence. She had no words. No excuses. No more smugness. Just a ruined dress, a broken wedding, and the horrifying knowledge that everyone knew what she really was behind the veil of perfection. I stood and walked to the door. Before leaving, I looked back at her one last time. Now we're even. And I meant it. The aftermath came fast. Within hours, the gossip article had been shared across social media. Comments poured in, some calling Riley a hypocrite, others just loving the drama. Her video was reposted, re-edited into TikToks, and even made it to a few top 10 wedding fails compilations before the weekend was over. She tried to get it taken down, but the internet doesn't forget, especially not on someone's wedding day. Jason never came back to the venue. He sent Riley a single text later that night. If this is here when the mask slips, I can't do this. They were over. Riley went radio silent for weeks. No social posts, no messages to the family. My dad called to check on her once, and she barely spoke. Even her best friends began pulling away, not because of the scandal, but because they finally saw what I had known all along. Riley took things that didn't belong to her and never cared who she hurt. As for me, I didn't throw a party. I didn't dance on her downfall. I just went on with my life. Caleb and I had a quiet, beautiful wedding 2 months later. I wore a new dress, not vintage, not designer, but mine. And during the ceremony, I carried a small handkerchief sewn from the lining of my mother's original gown. Layla had found it in the bundle when making the replica and saved it for me. It was enough. A week after our honeymoon, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. No return address. It was from Riley. I don't expect forgiveness. But I finally understand. What I did wasn't just cruel, it was selfish. I was jealous. Of you. Of Mom's love for you. Of how grounded you are. You didn't deserve what I did. And I definitely didn't deserve what you gave back. But I get it now. I really do. I folded the letter and tucked it into the back of my photo album, the one with Mom's wedding picture in it. A quiet place. A final chapter. Riley never pulled another stunt like that again. She faded from the spotlight for good. And me? I didn't just get justice. I got peace. Because revenge, when served cold, doesn't need to scream. It just needs to leave a mark.